Hello, my name is Brett Spence, and today we'll be talking about the US Marines during the American Revolution. Alright, let's begin. The Continental Marines were raised on November 10th, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress to serve on the newly created Continental Navy. Before then, the colonies had their own Marines to serve on their own ships. The Continental Marines' first officer was a blacksmith from Pennsylvania named Samuel Nicholas, and remained the senior Marine officer throughout the American Revolutionary War, and is considered the first Marine commandant. The Continental Marines were recruited from the Tun Tavern, King Street, Philadelphia, where they had to be good seamen or adequate with maritime affairs. The first important Marine operation happened on February 17, 1776, where a squadron of 5 ships from the Continental Navy under the command of Commodore Ernest Hopkins, with the Marines being commanded by Samuel Nicholas, set sail from Cape Helapen, Delaware, to New Providence Island in the British Bahamas to raid and secure much needed munitions and gunpowder for the Continental Army. On March 1st, the American squadron captured 2 sloops, and on March 3rd, Nicholas with 268 green-coated Marines and blue-jacketed sailors landed on a beach near Fort Montague and captured the fort at 3 a.m. after the fort fired a few shots. Despite receiving a warning that the Americans might attack the Bahamas, Governor Montfort Brown was surprised by the attack and ordered the militia summoned and ordered most of the island's gunpowder to be removed from the island to St. Augustine in the British East Florida. Despite taking Nassau, the island's capital, the Americans only captured 20 caskets of gunpowder with 88 guns, 50 mortars, and a large number of shells, and 12 high-ranking hostages. On the return voyage, the squadron encountered HMS Glasgow off Brook Island. After exchanging fire, HMS Glasgow escaped, suffering significant damage. When the squadron arrived at Newport, Rhode Island, where Nicholas received congratulations from President of the Continental Congress, John Hancock, and George Washington, who also paid his respects to the whole fleet. Nicholas was promoted to major and continued expanding the Marines, and was forced to remain land-bound due to the Continental Navy not having a ship of a line, but would participate in several important battles with the Continental Army. The Marines would join Washington's crossing of the Delaware, where they surprised the Hessians and defeated them at Trenton and took part in the Battle of Princeton. The Marines would serve alongside John Paul Jones, a Scottish-born naval officer who is considered the father of the United States Navy, where they raided Nova Scotia, capturing 16 British ships, and the raid in England, where John Paul Jones took command of a sloop USS Ranger, where they raided Whitehaven on April 20th, 1778. Where Jones led a contingent of Marines and sailors to take the fort guarding the port at 11 p.m. and in the early hours of the morning successfully spiked the fort's guns and set fire to a coal ship in the port, even though they hoped the fire would spread to the other ships in the port. Later that day, Jones raided St. Mary's Island and stole the Earl of Selkirk's family silver, with Lady Selkirk describing the naval officer present as a vile blackguard look, and the Marine officer as a well-behaved civil young man in a green uniform, an anchor on his buttons, who seemed naturally well-bred. He would capture HMS Drake before returning to America. The following year, Captain Jones took command of the former French Indies Company merchant ship USS Bohome Richards, where the Marines served alongside a detachment of French-Irish regiment, the Regiment Welsh, where their motto, Semper et Virtutum Fidelis, which means always and everywhere faithful. Later, the US Marine Corps would adopt it as Semper Fidelis, usually shortened to Semper Fi, which means always faithful or always loyal. They would take part in the Battle of Farnborough Head, where they took the 5th-rate HMS Serapis and had to abandon USS Bonhart Richard due to its suffering heavy damage and sinking. That would do it. The Marines would take part in the disastrous Penobscot expedition, the worst United States naval defeat till Pearl Harbor. The Marines under the command of John Welsh attempted to capture a British fort in the Pensacola Bay, Maine, on July 24, 1779, with a force of 1,200 men and 300 Marines attacked the fort, and despite some success, when the British squadron destroyed the American fleet and left the assaulting force stranded, they made a 270-mile march back to friendly lines through the American wilderness. With the Treaty of Paris of 1783 brought an end to the war and confirmed American independence, Congress disbanded the Continental Army, Navy, and Marines, which proved to be a mistake, with the young nation vulnerable against Native Americans and foreign aggressors, with Congress re-establishing the Navy and Marines a decade later and the regular army as well. If you like this video, like and subscribe. See you next time.